Hello and welcome to Lesson 9. I'm Avon, and today we're going to be talking about content creation. Now, it's obvious that content creation is valuable. You're watching a piece of content right now. It's something that I've recorded once, and you're now able to consume that content at any time of day or night. Now, at the moment, this video is one of a series of videos that I've created. But what I can also do is turn that into other forms of media. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in detail today. Because what we want to try and do is create leverage, not only from the content that we're creating, but from the time that we spend creating the content. So by doing it in a smart, structured way, you can actually save significant amounts of time in the way that you create content. There are a couple of things that you need to know in order to do that more effectively, but also to reduce the time and energy it takes to produce content in general, so that it doesn't become a chore, so that you actually do it and then it becomes valuable. Because if it's too hard, you just don't do it and you don't get any value from it. Now, in the last video, we talked about planning and understanding the marketing segment that you're in, who your audience is, where they hang out, what they like to consume. Now, whilst I'm producing a video and it's going to live on a course platform, the video content itself could be broken down into a number of different elements. In fact, it can create written form text, it can create blogs, articles, it can create social posts in the short form. You can edit the video down to smaller segments. You can take the audio only and turn it maybe into a podcast or some audio segments or something like that. You can take freeze frames from the video if you really want, of me pulling silly faces in between frames. The point being is that you want to be able to leverage your time and turn one thing into many things. This is called content syndication. So by syndicating your content across a number of mediums, now, yes, we're talking about social media content, we're talking about video content, but it's going in a course platform, it's going in a blog written down. It could also get printed out into an article and maybe sent in a letter. These are the sort of leveraged elements that if you think about that as you're creating the content, and it will take a little bit of time for you to understand how to create that structure, but once you start creating and planning for that structure from day one, it will mean that you create content just a little bit differently. So you'll notice that when I'm speaking, I'm looking at the camera, I'm engaging the audience. That's an element of quality in the video. I've worked hard on understanding my audience, what they want to hear, and what is valuable to them. I've thought about my intro, body, conclusion, the dot points that I cover. Each dot point can be taken out on its own and be used as a component in a separate video, in a shorter version, or turn into a short little article or blog or social post or something like that. This is working towards having a number of outlets, a number of media pieces on those outlets over a period of time. So the more content you produce, the more frequently you can be seen, the more likely someone is to feel as though they've built a relationship with you, and the more likely that that is to scale. You want to create every piece of content as though it is a standalone piece of content that links to more content. So each piece should be able to tell a story on its own, should be able to give an indication of what you do, why you do it, or share an idea or share a learning, something like that. And then that piece of content could link to maybe a larger piece of content. For example, if I take this video and edit it down into 20 or 30 smaller clips, would then have a link back to the main video saying, go and watch this bigger video. And then a number of larger videos could lead back to download this lead magnet or call this number or visit this website. And then maybe on the website, there's heaps of other little bits of information and articles and knowledge. And what you want to do is create a sense of brand entanglement, where someone is constantly tripping over the next piece of marketing in your business until it makes no sense to do anything other than to pick up the phone and work with you. That's when you know that they have understood what you do, they understand the value proposition, you are ever present, so they feel that they know you and they feel that they can trust you. Now, whilst this does seem like there's a lot of work involved, and yes, there is actually some systems and processes you can implement to make this process run a lot faster. There is an AI tool that you can use to create the short clips from the longer form video. You can use transcription tools to take the text out of the video. You can then use AI to turn that text into rewritten content or blogs that are in a better structure. Notice I say use the content that you've already produced, your words, not AI's words. I think a lot of times people think they can go to AI and say, write me a blog on X, and it gives the most generic, vanilla, average stuff. Whereas if you've said the information first, you've spoken it into a transcription tool, or you've written it down previously, even if it's just your initial thoughts, that is more valuable than getting AI to write something, because it's got your feelings, thoughts, emotions, ideas. At that point, all you're asking AI to do is to structure the sentences a bit better, or to put the grammar in where there wasn't any. It's not asking it to change any of the fundamental content. In fact, it might add to it, but at least it's adding 1 or 2% instead of 99% of the content where you just started with a topic and a title. People know when they're reading AI content, so you kind of need to make it a little bit jarring, make it a bit different, make it stand out. Do something weird, say something weird, make some mistakes in the spelling. That's what's going to make you more human than if the AI went and gave perfect grammar, perfect spelling. Generally, for me as an Australian, AI likes to do it in American spelling. So that's one telltale sign that it's been written by AI rather than by a human. AI is also not cool and funny, so it can't add colloquialisms or a line from a movie quote or a line from a song that someone's going to resonate with, particularly from when we were talking about that ethnographics, aligning people to certain ideas, concepts, feelings, and emotions, that stating a line of a song might instantly connect you with a whole bunch of people that are familiar with or like that song from that era that they were a part of, that they grew up with. Now you've connected on another level. It's not just about the text and saying something in a way that is grammatically correct. Also remember that while you're creating content, that there is a concept on the internet of TLDR, too long didn't read. So you really need to grab attention quickly, break it down into short, sharp dot points that say a lot with very little. There's infinite ability to create endless content when using things like AI, or even me creating video. I can create a large volume of content if my processes are good out the end of this, to be able to then create the article, the blog, the social post. So the volume is intense. So the less you can say in text, but more in terms of intent and value and perspective and experience, that's going to give more value to the reader than if you were to write some 50-page treatise on how water is made. Now, if you want to get ideas for what to write or what to speak about, then you need to be collecting those ideas. You need to be reading widely and understanding what's out there in the marketplace. Once you understand the trends, the patterns, what people are talking about, what people are interested in, what questions they have, then you can start to note take that down, and that helps you to then formulate new ideas to then produce more content. I use a neural note-taking method, and I can put a link to that in the description. But basically, all of that content that I consume, I'm taking notes, not massive notes, just lightly taking notes. But me taking notes and getting in the habit of writing things down helps me to formulate new ideas, connect new dots that maybe someone else hasn't connected in the same way. And then I can take that written down idea, put that into ChatGPT and expand it out into a full article, or even condense it down, ask it to summarize a bigger idea. Again, I don't necessarily advocate for using AI for a lot of things. However, it can leverage some of the work that you do, not replace you. And remembering that you need to stay in constant contact over a number of different mediums to be relevant, remembered, and valuable to your customer. So turning the video transcript into an email newsletter is an easy way to repurpose that content. But if you're going to do that, you may as well turn the newsletter into a blog that's publicly facing, and then take a cut down version of that and put it onto a newsletter with a link to the main article, which then means that you're intriguing interest, expanding that thought onto them visiting your website, seeing the full article, getting exposed to the main menu and the other bits that they can explore. Maybe there's a video on there as well. You're adding depth to the content, you're adding value, you are giving them a reason and the ability to explore more of you without actually having to interact with you. And whilst that sounds bad, if you think about a shop, you're going to walk past a shop and you've got a tiny little tile on the wall, people are not going to notice. But if you walk past a shop and it's got big windows, the tables are out, they've got good lighting, they've got all their products displayed, they can make a decision that looks inviting. They can see what it's about. If it's a shoe shop, they can see all the shoes. They can see what colors. You got men's shoes, ladies' shoes, kids' shoes, whatever. Maybe you're in that mood, but you wouldn't have known if you just walked past the little tile on the wall. If you walk past the big windows that shows you the inside of the shop, and then you've got one person in the shop who's looking inviting to go and speak to, you're more likely to walk into that shop than you are to the one with just a small little tile saying we sell shoes. So opening yourself up to the world really just reduces the barriers for someone to want to go and interact with you. And that interaction is what then leads to a sales conversation, because conversations are where sales happen. They don't happen pre or post, they happen in the conversation. So the more that you can encourage that with the right person at the right time, the better. The other thing you get to do with your articles is you get to link it to things that you want them to see. So if you're producing a product or service, or you've got some form of testimonials, case studies, reviews, you can put that alongside the article or at the footer or in a thing on the sidebar. But you can give an indication to say, I provide this, and by the way, here's a whole bunch of other people that bought it that thought it was amazing. Again, it's just going to reduce the barriers to someone wanting to actually buy from you and then feel as though they are comfortable and safe to do so. The other thing you might want to look at is leveraging other people's audiences. Not only can you produce your own content, but sometimes you might want to work with other podcasters or other influencers, or maybe write a press release. These are people that have audiences that are bigger than yours. You could go and produce 1,000 pieces of content, but if you've got no audience, no one's going to see it. Or you might get seen once per video or something like that, such as the journey of most young YouTubers or those starting out. However, if you've got an audience, you can do a lot of things. More people are going to see it. For that one little effort, it's going to get a much broader reach and it's going to be seen by a lot more people. So if you're making an offer, if you're trying to educate, if you're trying to demonstrate value, then you can do that a lot easier in front of people who are either in that mode looking for that sort of thing, or you can attract a new audience that's never seen you before and maybe start to introduce your brand to them. So using other people's audiences can be very, very effective. And remember to use your image in your content. Don't create stock images, or if you do, use them very sparingly. But people connect with people. Humans connect with humans. They can tell if it's a stock image. But if it's got your face on it, if it makes you look like the brand, or maybe it's got some real happy customers, some of your customers instead of stock image customers. Now, if you don't know what a stock image is, it's basically an image you can buy, or sometimes you can get them for free, that somebody else has taken. That's either staged or it's been taken by a photographer who's looking to get royalty fees from you using that image. So sometimes stock images can be great to fill a website or cover some gaps where you don't happen to have content for, but it is very worth getting your camera, going out and taking a few happy snaps. Most phones have such amazing quality that it's better than half of the DSLR high-end cameras that are available on the market. So when they say that a picture tells 1,000 words, try to get your team involved, get other people involved, because it tells their story as well. But also remembering that if a picture tells 1,000 words and you've got video, well, it takes 63 frames per second, so you may as well get a video. It's going to be a hell of a lot more impactful. They get to see your face. They get to, in more three-dimensional as you move around, so that it's not just a two-dimensional image. It also means that they get to hear your voice, see your expressions, and people tend to trust that more, particularly if they can look you in the eyes like I'm doing now. This can be good for small snippets of content as well, such as a video introduction in like a LinkedIn or something like that. It helps build connection and breaks down the barrier that would otherwise leave a lot of other questions unanswered. What do they look like? Where are they from? What are their interests? Those sorts of things that people align with. It's just going to make those barriers go down and down. Now, as you become more sophisticated, you might look at other things like using certain colors or themes or backgrounds or qualities of images or music and things like that to influence in your content creation. But I think if you just want to get started, literally just point your camera at yourself, could be your phone, anything, and just get started. I think half the struggle can be getting confident enough to say something on camera or in front of people. So getting that practice really does mean that you end up with a much better product. And the more that you can do that, people see authenticity. The more that you can do it, the more they relate to you as a person. They realize you're human, and it's not an AI deep fake because, well, you sneezed halfway through the video, or you laughed, or you made a movement that no AI could really do. So it's just about creating human connection and doing it at scale. And if you're going to use content to educate your customer, this just helps them understand that you know how to solve their problem. You know what their problem is. And the more times you say it, the more you're likely to say it in their language, in their words, in the way that they're actually searching for. Maybe the customer doesn't know the technical jargon. So making it really simple actually is more effective than trying to look professional and know what you're talking about. So the other concept is show, don't tell. If I'm going to go and do something on camera, I want to show you how to, change a tire, fix something, then me talking you through it as I do it shows that I actually know what I'm talking about, as opposed to writing a step-by-step instruction or telling you that this is what you need to do. The more that you show yourself to the world, the more you build trust and confidence. And even though someone probably could do something themselves, you're going to attract the ones that want you to do it because they don't have the time, energy, or care to want to do it themselves. So we spoke earlier about content syndication. So as you're creating all of this content, it's now important for you to distribute it across a number of channels. It could be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of those. So it's useful to have a syndication tool or a posting tool. Now, I'll have a link to one in the comments, but basically a posting tool is one where you write the content once and then you can modify it for each particular channel. So it might need to be shorter to be on Twitter, or X as it's now called. And it might need to be a little bit more professional on LinkedIn or a little bit more fun on Instagram. But as you create those content variations, you can then post the content on all those platforms in one go. But even better than that is to batch process. Spend one day a week just creating content, then schedule it out for the rest of the week or for the rest of the month. And the more content that you have, you're going to have different types. You're going to have long form, short form. You're going to have byproducts of the longer form, that is the shorter form. You're going to have some that are specific, like this, which is for a course. So creating content that is scalable means doing it frequently and making sure that the content that you're creating is addressing your target market, because this is ideally a long-term salesperson that's going to never sleep, that's going to constantly be working on your behalf. So you want to make sure that what you do, what you say is worth listening to. So do your marketing planning, make sure you plan out your content, and just do it. I don't care if the first one is rubbish. Just get in the habit of doing it, because if you don't do all of those things, it's not going to happen at all. If you're going to wait for perfection, it's not going to happen. So yes, it needs to be good, but the first couple don't have to be. Just do it. Just go. That's it. Remember that the customer is looking to solve the problem that they have. They're not looking to hear about how good you are. So don't go talking about yourself. Talk about the customer. Talk about what the customer wants, and give the farm away. Give as much information as you can. Give till it hurts. Because even though it feels like you're doing yourself out of business, you're not. It's almost totally the opposite. The more you show, the more you give examples of what you know, the more you become trusted, and they're just going to get you to do it, because other people are focusing on their own business, their own life, their own challenges. Whilst they have a little problem that they want to get solved, they're looking to you to solve that problem. Or that could be through a product, or it could be through a service. It doesn't matter. But as long as you're demonstrating to them that you are the one with the answer, that's who they're going to choose. Now, as you're creating content, you might also want to think about having a hook. A hook can be done in a number of ways. That can be verbally, or it could be visually. So a hook might be, I pose a question that draws you in. So most people don't know this, did you know that most plumbers fail at customer service because, some kind of question that draws people in. And you need to do it in a fraction of a second, or within the first 3 to 5 seconds, because then otherwise attention is gone. They've scrolled, they've looked at the next video, they've clicked away, whatever. You need to grab attention. That's why you need a hook. The other one is a visual hook. I like to use my phone when I record, and I hold the phone upside down and I twist it and then bring it in. And what that does is it creates a rotating effect and then zoom effect instantly. So within the first scroll, as they've gone to the video, they see a lot of movement and a lot of change, and then they see my face, and then I ask a posing question. And that, whilst I don't do it for all the videos, when I'm doing it in the mobile format, it grabs a lot of attention and it makes people stop scrolling. So it just gets my videos watched 5% more, 10% more. Again, you're just looking for those small percentage improvements over time across a number of areas in your business that overall lead to a more significant result down the track. Once you've done the hook, you then need to engage with the content. I like to think like an article. You've got an intro, you've got a body with a few main dot points. Those are your paragraphs, those are your talking points, and not too many. Let's go 3 or 4 maybe. I mean, I've done a lot in this video, but this is more of a course, and that's just how the video is designed to be. So then you want to have your conclusion. And somewhere in there, you need to mix it up, but you need to ask them to do something. It could be follow, subscribe. It could be make a comment. It could be go to this website and buy this product. Click the link in the description, for example. So that call to action is the thing that's actually going to drive them to do something as a result of watching you. Another thing you could do to grab attention is just set an expectation early on. So as soon as you get into the video and you give the hook and you go blah, 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 I've got your attention. And now in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you this, 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 and this. And at the end, if you stick around, you'll get a freebie or something like that. So what I've done is I've given an expectation that it's only going to be about 10, 20 minutes. So settle in, get comfortable. What I've then done is said you're going to get value X, Y, and Z. And then at the end, I'm going to give you something. So that's generally going to get people to watch the whole video, because if you don't do that sort of structure, then likely someone will get in, and if you're sitting there going, I think we're going to do this and maybe that, and it's not clear what the end outcome's going to be, then they're just going to click away. Next, once you've produced a video, the next thing, most important thing, is to have a intriguing title and a thumbnail. Now, this is more YouTube specific, but it doesn't matter where the content is. The first thing people see is what gets them to read. The old way to explain this concept is above the fold. Now, that was originally coming from a newspaper, is above the fold. The top half of the newspaper is the first thing you see. So it needs to be engaging and grab your attention. You also talk about that above the scroll in a website, whereas that first page before you scroll anything down needs to be engaging. In fact, even have a little bit popping up from the next section, so that when you look at the top section, and if it's, instead of it all just being one flat color and one image and bit of text, that you can kind of see, the head of the next image, that there's more if I scroll down. Because what you want to do is create intrigue. So that's what you're doing by creating the hook, but you also need to create intrigue in the title and the thumbnail, or whatever the image is that is displayed prior to the video actually being watched. And the next thing you need to remember is that you want to try and continue that engagement. I talked about brand entanglement, where they're always tripping over the next piece of content in your ecosystem. So maybe at the end of it, you might say, now watch the next video to find out this. Or you can find out more in this video that's linked here. Or there's a link in the description to the next thing. Or anything just to keep them involved in your content, keep them spending more time consuming who you are, what you're about, understanding your personality, your brand, what you're offering. That's what's really going to create value for you and for them. So don't think that creating content is in the too hard basket. Dive in, head first, go hard. It is worth it. And once you've created enough content, it will start to work for itself. Remember, it's that salesperson that never sleeps. So that is how to create content. And we talked about syndicating and moving it out onto multiple different platforms. Thank you for watching, and take care.